In cities everywhere,
Candyman.
they whisper his name.
Hey folks, this is Monk, and we are back with another episode of Classes of Cinematics, and I'm joined as always with my co-host Bobby Blockbuster.
Yo, yo, yo! You like my Candyman hook?
If you heard Bobby right here, man, we're going to be talking about Candyman from 1992. In this film, skeptical graduate student Helen befriends Anne while researching superstitions in a housing project in Chicago's near North Side. From Anne Marie, Helen learns about the Candyman, a knife-wielding figure of urban legend that some of her neighbors believe to be responsible for a recent murder. After mysterious man matching Candyman's description begins stalking her, Helen comes to fear that the legend may be all too real. And this film is based on a Clive Barker story from Books of Blood.
Yeah, it's the Books of Blood, Volume 5, and the short story that this derived from was The Forbidden.
Yeah. So this cast includes Virginia Madsen. We also get Bernard Rose, Cassie Lemons, Vanessa E. Williams. She's most known for New Jack City, man, the Rockabye Baby. And it's cool. I've seen her recently, getting some film roles as well. We also get Xander Berkeley. These are going to be our main cast, and of course Tony Todd, man, rest in peace. The story is based on, we've got, like, as I subscribe, we got a college student. Is she a student at this point?
No,
I think she's actually a professor.
She's a college graduate.
Okay.
And her and her buddy are trying to do a thesis on that
urban legends. Yeah. So that's what gets her down this Candyman path, trying to research this myth, the Candyman, which is kind of based on our childhood Bloody Mary thing we used to do when we used to get in the mirror and just, and say Bloody Mary a bunch of times and try to scare each other.
Yes. And that's what I like about this, because the instant change, because Barker's story revolved around the British class system in contemporary Liverpool, whereas Bernard Rose, who wrote the screenplay for this and directed the film, he decided to kind of modernize it and Americanize it in such a way where he changed the complete character dynamic of Candyman, and it works really well for this film. But then also by bringing it into the housing projects of Cabrini Green, and with the focus on racism, social class, and things like that, which we have to deal with on everyday levels on many forms. So it kind of just shines light on that. You know what I'm saying? And what really works for me is that, with the delivery and the approach, it blends this like the paranormal fears, but then the slasher shock value with the character, the Candyman. You know what I'm saying? And it all focuses heavily on myth building. You know what I mean? Like that's where it really the meat and potatoes of this film stems from. And when you can create the myth, and then the legend is formed, it instills the fear. And they do that in such a way with this film that it really works for the story. Yeah.
I think also it's interesting too, where this thing takes place. So we've got, it's an urban environment, that this killer is, allegedly stalking, and the legend is manifesting, man. And it's crazy too, because it's in the poorer side of town, so you got this crazy urban landscape. But I think it also works for this film visually, because it almost gives you this crazy kind of gothic feel to the sets. And as she's poking around in these communities and going into these buildings that are run down, decrepit, beat up, like there's some really crazy spooky imagery that gets that helps immerse you in this spookiness and this get an overall feel of like ickiness and danger and just suspense that's built up in it.
Another thing I like about this story is it has an underlying realistic vibe to it, because like you said, this stems from the Bloody Mary story. Like they dig into that a little bit with how you summon Candyman. But where I say it, it gives this underlying realness to it, is because you can actually do that at home. Like you can take that home with you. You can go stand in the mirror.
We already did it though.
You can do the cool thing. But you can do this as well, and it just kind of feels like man, like it made it feel a little more realistic, you know what I'm saying, with with all of the other things that we talked about, so I really like that. I think that made this story hit a little harder as well.
I don't know if they've ever done that. If there had ever been like a Bloody Mary movie, every now and then you'll see these films that are based on urban legends. Even a film with a broad sweep like urban legend, the film series.
Right.
But it's kind of cool when they take these things and explore. It's like something like the Mothman or the Jersey Devil or things that you hear about growing up. And seeing them play around with the idea of that, in a film,
it taps into the psyche differently, And another thing that really helps, bring this story to life also is because, it takes place in a real place that we can actually go visit, go see. You know what I'm saying? That
not
is
no
on
more,
the map. Not no more. I mean, it's been gentrified. No, it's been changed up.
They knocked Cabrini down like years ago.
Did.
This was probably like right before that happened too, though.
Yeah, and it's wild because one of the driving forces of the story arc is the main character Helen's disbelief of the Candyman. So it kind of it just keeps injecting this thought that if you don't believe in the myth, in the legend, in the horror element, then it's gonna come and find you, which just really makes the story
in a
really
way
hit.
I kind of feel like her poking around kind of awakens him. It brings him strength back, to allow him to start, because it seems like in this world he's a character that this community knows and they fear, but they don't bring him up. It's like a name that's not mentioned, but I think her poking around and speaking his name and talking to people about it kind of gives him the strength to kind of re-manifest and start coming. It's almost like Freddy in Freddy vs. Jason, how he was weak at first, but he starts messing around, having Jason. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So the fear that she's bringing up by re-mentioning his name is giving him the strength to start coming into her life and coming after her.
Because with everybody else, they don't have to speak on. They're already terrified. I think what really upset him when it pertains to her was the fact that she didn't believe. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to use you almost as a muse to re-inject the fear. To re-solidify the fact that I do exist and I am something that everybody should be afraid of.
Let me see. So we got some interesting characters here, man. Helen herself, man, she gets on my nerve watching this though, man, because she's this naive person that's just running around in this community in a way that's too cavalier for me, man. Her friend is like, yo, it's kind of dangerous out here, bro. We gotta be careful. It's almost like she's more concerned about her Candyman interest than this community, man. It kind of pisses me off a little bit, but she's the person that we're following around and experiencing this story through. So I think that is interesting that initially she's really just trying to get to the source of the legend. Where did it come from? She doesn't really care initially, I think, about it being real or not. She just wants to know the history behind it, the roots. Right. What real things could it possibly be connected to, like that this story would come from? She's not really, even thinking about the supernatural implications or the fact that, this thing could be really real. It's just the, her paper is just to find the source, really,
and just to get published and just to make a name. Mm-hmm. And what really, like I said, what intensifies it is because it, she's actually going into this housing development of Cabrini Green. That is the real development of the time in 1992. They actually shot 3 days in Cabrini Green. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And they had to get approval from the ruling gang members at the time to shoot there, to make sure that the cast and characters would be safe, because otherwise it wasn't going to happen. And some of these individuals also said they wanted to be extras in the film just to make sure that it happened. So it kind of adds to the realness element. But yeah, when it comes to Helen, like I said, it's just this is one of those situations where curiosity will get you late. You know what I'm saying? She's diving into it. I understand, you want to write the paper and do all these things, but at the same time, she's treading on thin ice. I think that she did really well, Virginia Madsen, especially being a lesser known actress at the time. She kind of
she's good in this role.
Yeah,
she's great.
She implanted herself in this. She is this film helped her become a household name, due to this film. But I also I'm a sucker for good friends. And I like Bernadette, played by Cassie Lemons, because she's rocking with her all the way. You know what I'm saying? And she's what helps keep this film grounded in a sense where, like, as ambitious and, almost like as driven as Helen is to come, to find out what's really going on. She's also like, hey man, let's dive, but we don't need to dive too deep. Let's go here, but we don't need to go all the way there. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's still understand the fact that people are scared for a reason of this myth, of this legend. So, I thought that she did a great job.
I don't even know if it's even about the myth. I think she's just weird that yo, we in the hood right now, bro. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's what I'm saying. When I was saying Helen was pissing me off, because it's like, bro, I'm like, yo, but you are in danger. You got to tread lightly. You got to show certain respects to the people that are in this community. Yeah. Maybe even ask permission in some cases, but she just charges right in. And I'm like, man.
Like, initially when they first go in there, they're trying to portray themselves as police officers. It's like,
she likes the fact that they think that they're police, because the people act, it's like, are y'all police? And she's like, the first thing she says is, it's fine. They think we're police. They're not going to bother us.
They're not going to bother us.
And I'm like, all right. But then when they find out you ain't, then that's even more dangerous.
I get that. But then also, man, when they go into that apartment, man, and they break that mirror down and they actually go into that little, like, I guess through the mirror into that other little area where it was it looked like she was coming out of Candyman's mouth. That was
the painting. Man, there's some good visual moments in here, man. Like I say, man, that the fact where it takes place, it gives them such cool set pieces and set design. Shout out to Vanessa E. Williams. She's dope in this as well. As one of the, I guess she's probably the most person that has the most recent experience, that's closest to the legend at this point, and she questions her, which kind of leads to a wild scene where this Candyman starts manifesting later on and bugging out. But yeah, she's pretty good here. She's probably the first person they encounter in the building that's she's a bit hostile at first, but then kind of warms up to Helen and gives her some more background on the stories that she knows, because essentially that one apartment they're going into, that's kind of where the last thing that they think was connected to this Candyman, like it was a really messed up crime that happened here. Someone was killed, and all the residents think it was Candyman. The police are kind of indifferent. They just looking at it, just another crazed homicide, situation. So that's interesting.
And what I liked about her character arc too is she's believable. Her reactions are believable as things are happening around her. It's like, if I was in that kind of situation, I'd probably react similarly. You know what I mean? To that. But I also, shout out to Dwan Gray. He played Little Jake. And for me, like, the movie wouldn't hit as hard on the fear factor if it wasn't for the small segments that he has in there. Because, when it comes to, children, the innocents, they are the ones that really can magnify the fear. You know what I'm saying? You see the fear in his face. He's portraying it on screen, and it looks so believable. And, a lot of that has to do with, the young mind. You're more open-minded. You're more susceptible to these kind of things and believing them, taking them to sleep with you, having nightmares and all that other stuff. But what hit me about his character is I remember when I first saw this movie, I was about the same age as him. So I was like, man, this is...
Yeah, so then we got Tony Todd, man. He's our Candyman character in this, man. And I think really the best part of this film for me is him, being in it. And this character, is messed up, man. Black people die first in the horror movies, and black people, they don't get to play the villains, and he's the villain in this. And the story is crazy, the way they built this character. He was an artist, from a wealthy family, but he ended up messing with one of his patron's daughter, had an affair with her. And because of the times that it was, this is kind of a post-slavery, and it's still crazy racial tensions and at the time, and he was pretty much lynched, for this act of being a black man that was involved with a white woman, and they cut off his arm. which he replaces with a hook later. They also covered him in honey, so he's attacked by bees and probably set on fire. It was a horrible death.
It was a lot going on. And shout out to Tony Todd, because he is the one who came up with the backstory for the character. Because the Candyman character in the Clive Barker original short story did not have a backstory, and was a completely different character dynamic as a whole. So that just shows how inventive and how involved he was into creating this character and making sure that it was something that would last long and with all the potential to become iconic. It shows him when he's standing there. He has a very dominating presence. Like he knows that he knows what he's capable of, even though Helen might not believe in him. She gonna find out.
It's crazy too, because like, I don't know, there's so many ways you could have went with this character, but I like how he's kind of like it's almost like he seems just come from a distinguished lineage, man. He has an air of regalness to him. The way he's dressed, even his language is almost poetic. Like he's well read. Yes. So it's kind of an interesting bunch of characteristics to add to this character.
Another thing that really stands out to me about Candyman is the narrative. The fact that he is constantly narrating through the film. He has a very distinct voice, a very powerful voice. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, the way that I
don't know if it's narration. It's just more of him giving you his speech, his game, he's
very he's very articulate.
He's not really telling you what's happening. But
he has a very imposing presence, and I like the dialogue. We'll say that. And why he's just making these little
he's got his sayings though. He's got his sayings. The things.
And I thought that really added to his character arc. You know what I'm saying? And also just kind of made him really come off as that much more scary, that much more imposing, because it shows that he's fully aware of what he's doing. But then in essence, he kind of has this like Phantom of the Opera vibe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Where he's like it's almost like he's not just trying to scare Helen, like he's also trying to romance her in a way and like kind of like pull her in, because he also has an alternative motive. It's not just to make sure that she believes in him and what he's capable of doing, but that he wants to at the end game is that they can live eternally together and haunt as a unit. You know what I'm saying? That's
delusional, bro.
Yeah,
delusional.
He's shooting for the stars, but I mean,
he's wild, man. Yeah. I guess that's part of his pain, even though he's doing some messed up things, he had a tragic beginning. So I saw maybe in his eyes that can help in a way make his curse more bearable. But yeah, man, so you get into that. And the other things that really stand out to me, like I said, man, when it's time to do his Candyman business, there's pretty really intense scenes, man, especially when my man in the office gets it. Like sometimes, I don't know, man, there's a weird thing that's going on here, like, because some of the characters do say the Candyman stuff and they get murked, but some of them don't and they still get murked. And I'm like, that's kind of weird to me. I'm not sure the rules. Maybe it's just that they're in the way of him getting to Helen, so they got to go, or there are people that are trying to help her, so they get clipped out. But
it could be the magnitude of the belief.
But when it happens, bro, man, it's brutal, bro. It's rough. They don't play like that. Hook is a real crazy.
And he says he's gonna hit you from the groin to the gullet. Yeah, so he's gutting you like a fish.
Yeah, he goes in and just
all the way up. Crazy. You know what I mean? What really enhances that for me too is the practical effects. The effects game was so solid in this. Like, do you know they used real bees the whole time? Yeah. It was this dude. Let me see. Who's the bee handler?
That's
Norman Gary. He was the bee handler, because one of the most iconic scenes to me, and one of the scenes that stood out to me the most, was the part where Candyman had the bees coming out of his mouth, and then Virginia Madsen ended up having them all over her face, and they actually both, had real bees on it. They put a prosthetic in Tony Todd's mouth and all this queen bee pheromone to make sure the bees stayed in there, and the bees came out, and then they did the same thing with Helen or with Virginia Madsen, spraying that stuff on her face, but they had to use freshly hatched bees that couldn't fly or couldn't sting because she was really allergic. But Shout out to Tony Todd for being, you know, a businessman, because he also had a clause in his contract that he wanted $1,000 for every time he was stung by a bee. He was stung 23 times, so he got some extras, because you know that's a lot to ask for an actor or an actress. You know what I'm saying? Is just to let somebody smother you with real bees. You know, just for the sake of.
It affected. It looks good to this day, man. I watched it last night and I'm like,
real.
This is wild.
And then, you know, that just leads right into the cinematography, which was done by Anthony B. Richmond. I mean, because that's how you capture and encompass all these effects and everything that we're going. Like, you know, this was one of the first films where they used the sky cam. And, you know, at the very beginning of the film, where we're getting these overhead shots of Chicago, and we get it a few times throughout the film. I was
wondering how they did that. They just hooked that to a plane?
No, it was a sky cam. It was new for the time in '92. I think it was, I don't know. From what I was reading, was it
suspended between two buildings?
I guess kind of like a drone in a sense.
All right, so it got to be something flying.
There was something flying, but
maybe they just put it on like a remote control RC copter or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
That is cool, man. The opening shot coming into this, man, and combined with the score, man, which is really impressive. I think that's another strong element here. That score is just phenomenal, man. Like the theme when this film is starting, and it's just like that droning, like and then later on the subtle stuff where they're poking around, it's like that piano, like it's really good. This is a very memorable score, man, for this film. It's very distinct as a character.
Philip Glass did that, and like I said, that score also really kind of adds to the whole Phantom of the Opera like element that I think that they were really shooting for, because Tony Todd said himself that like when he was reading the stuff for his character, that he wanted to kind of do a cross between Phantom of the Opera and like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, where he's like, you know, he's trying to still, you know, achieve his goals and find his love, but like go about it in a more you know, demanding way, you know. But you know, you know, when you're a monster, you know, you gotta kind of, you know, you just got maybe love is out the window. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's wild, man. You know, it all culminates into one of the wildest finishes too, man. like Helen ultimately makes the ultimate sacrifice and kind of you know, helps saves this missing child. What's her name's missing child? I forgot her name.
Anne-Marie.
Anne-Marie's missing child, and in the same process, pretty seemingly destroys Candyman, you know. But that scene is just really intense, man. Her final moments of her existence in this film are crazy, because it's just like you said, man, it's a thing where you're trying to convince everybody that I'm not crazy, but it just keeps getting worse and worse. The more you try, the worse it gets. And then, but finally, she ultimately triumphs against this guy, like the you know, this spirit, this entity, and it's wild, because I think that was a really. It's kind of cheesy to me in hindsight, like rewatching it last night, but it is still kind of powerful when the community comes to her funeral, you know.
Because I think they were showing like, okay, you know what, we know it wasn't you. It was we know the whole time. We believe you. We believe you. You know, like you said, it was corn mixed with cheese, but you know, hey man, they
came to show their respect.
It made sense for the film arc, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, not for nothing, you know, when you take a step back and just look at this film for what it is, I mean, this is an iconic film with an iconic monster, and this is one of those ones where, you know, we see it annually on Halloween. You know, it has solidified itself in the horror genre with the horror community for various reasons. Coming in on an $8 to $9 million budget, it grossed 25.8 in the U.S. Not even speaking on what it did worldwide. Spawned 2 sequels, and then in 2021, you know, we got the Jordan Peele Productions reboot, you know, which ended up serving as a direct sequel and kind of tied in with this film in so many ways, bringing back Vanessa E. Williams and kind of just leaning more into the Candyman element and everything, and talking about the gentrification in Cabrini Green. So it just really it hit on a lot of key notes, and just, you know, as a whole, as a horror franchise, this one definitely solidified itself.
I don't know as a franchise though, because the sequels was kind of just I wouldn't do it to myself.
Yeah, part 2 and part 3 were not that good.
Like they were, it was almost like I kind of ignored them. I remember seeing Farewell to the Flesh in the theater and coming out of that with me and my buddies, and it was just like, what was that?
Yeah. Part 2 and part 3 were not that good, but
what was part 3? Day of the Dead or something?
Day of the. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, it's something. Oh, yeah, it was Candyman.
Day of the Dead.
Yeah, Day of the Dead. There you go. Farewell to the Flesh, Day of the Dead. But what they did with the 2021 reboot, kind of like if you could dismiss the Farewell to the Flesh and the Day of the Dead and just go from this,
I would recommend
to the reboot. It kind of it hits on a different note. I actually did that this week and thoroughly enjoyed it, man. I watched this one and then watched the reboot immediately after, and it strummed a different note. It hit a different chord for me, and I was just like, wow, this was really cool, especially the way they take a new direction into leaning into the Candyman element as a whole. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was just it was creative, inventive, and kind of made it so that he as a horror figure could be everlasting.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm curious to see if they'll re-explore this character at all or go back into this realm. But yeah, I definitely advise people to check this film out, man. How you feel about it, it's going to depend on a lot of things, but at the very least, I think this film did a great job of introducing us to Tony Todd. This ain't his first film, but it is his first film that made him a household name. Mm-hmm. And like I said, man, like black characters, at least as villains, were few and far between. I think before this, the only thing that of note was like Blackula. Where you could look at a film and be like, dang, this is the bad guy. I don't know. That's always been weird to me. We don't get a lot of films where the black guy is the big bad, and I don't know what that's about. I can understand some black folks being a little bit, upset at the notion of that. Why does a black guy have to be the bad guy? But I'm like, I want to see people doing all the roles, all kinds of roles. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little strange to me, man. But
and he was the first like horror slasher in this fashion. You know what I'm saying? So he definitely and it was never duplicated, never redone.
Yeah, definitely the biggest one. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like nothing's been done. Like not many. Like it's crazy, bro. Like you gotta look at most of the black film villains, they're not of this nature. It's going to be like a gangster film or something, or you look at like a Nino Brown or something like that. So yeah, it's few and far in between, man. And for the few that we have, he's definitely probably at the top of that list, man. Absolutely. Like even right now, as I'm pull up black movie villains. All right, we got Blackula, Jimmy Bones from Bones. You know what I'm saying? Some of these I don't even understand. Who's Mr. Sims? Who's Dr. Hess Green?
Mr. Sims was Tales from the Hood.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're right. But who's Dr. Hess Green? Like this is a 1973 film, Baron Samedi. Like, I don't know. We got Killmonger, Alonzo from Training Day. Like, it's so crazy that immediately they're only giving me 9 options right now on Google. Like, and right now. That's only 9. And this is spanning from 73. We're talking 50 years.
2024. And also look at the far reach between the genres too. Mm-hmm. Like it's going from a horror to Training Day.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, this is crazy, man. Yeah. We gotta do better at that.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, because I want to see more black villains. We got definitely imagine. I mean, we got Alonzo from Training Day, but actually he's kind of. I don't want to spoil it for you, but there's a new movie out with him too, Denzel. But like I want to see that guy really get bad. Like you know what I'm saying? Like I'll have some fun with it. Like let these people, get some of these roles as well. But it is what it is, man. But definitely check out Candyman, and we're probably going to be back soon with another episode of Classes of Cinematics, man. We doing real good out in these streets. Shout out to the new subscribers, man. If it's the first time checking us out, We're gonna be back for more. This is what we do. You can check us out at I just started a TikTok, so there's a Classes of Cinematics TikTok if you want to get on there. Yeah. There's just more clips. We got CO Cinematics on Twitter. We also got at Classes of Cinematics on Instagram, you know, so you can check us out in all those spots. We got material coming there. And also you can check me out at Monkey Blood on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, like Monk said, shout out to all the new subscribers, but a big shout out to all the OGs, the ones that have been rocking with us from day one. All of it matters to us. You know, you like the love, we appreciate it. So, you know, we're going to keep doing this as long as y'all enjoying it. And this Bobby Blockbuster. As always, you can catch me on the next show.
Yeah, and one last thing, man. Rest in peace to Saphir. You might know him from Menace to Society as Kane's cousin Harold. Passed away recently. But yeah, we out of here, folks. Peace. Boom. Yeah, we good. Yeah, that'll fuck me up.